evening, everyone. I'm Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton. It's AlanHamilton. I'm the Commanding Officer of Operations Valley Bureau. With me today is Captain Francis Boateng. He's the Commanding Officer of Topanga area for the Los Angeles Police Department. At approximately 3:45 p.m., LAPD was advised of a dispute that occurred here in the parking lot, right here on the in the parking lot behind where I am right now. During that dispute between the parties that were involved, a shootout occurred that involved the people that were here involved in the dispute in the parking lot. Our preliminary investigation has revealed that the dispute centered around a narcotics transaction in the area. During that dispute, multiple suspects produced firearms and fired at each other. At this time, there's no danger to the West Hills community. We believe that we have everyone involved in this incident either detained or at the hospital. We believe that all of the people involved in this dispute have been identified, and we believe we have them either in custody or we have them where we can provide them medical care, and we will do a subsequent follow-up investigation after they are medically treated. Earlier this afternoon, when this incident occurred, you may have heard about a pursuit that transpired following this incident. So I'm going to describe what occurred, and it will give you a little bit more information regarding why we went in pursuit. So following the incident here, where the gunfire occurred, one of the suspects fled this location. An LAPD air unit was monitoring the broadcast and came overhead and observed that suspect driving a vehicle with the window shot out, leaving the scene. The air unit continued to follow that suspect and directed ground units into the area where the suspect was fleeing. That suspect became involved in a hit-and-run traffic collision where they injured someone else and continued fleeing the area. They subsequently switched vehicles, and that unit, the air unit saw them switch vehicles and directed ground units to the location where the suspect was fleeing. At that time, we became aware that this individual here was deceased. So that suspect, possibly armed, was identified as a murder suspect fleeing this area. Our ground units caught up with the suspect, and there was a short pursuit lasting approximately 2 to 3 minutes that ended in the area of Owens Mouth and Satakoy, where the suspect pulled over, surrendered, and was taken into custody without incident. Both suspects. There was a female driver, and the male suspect that we believe fled this scene was taken into custody without incident. Those two individuals are in custody at Topanga Station. During our subsequent investigation, we recovered a firearm that we believe was involved in the shootout that occurred here at this location. The victim that was injured as a result of the hit and run has been treated, and that traffic report is being taken by our Valley Traffic Division officers. We do not believe that that individual is going to have any life-threatening injuries at this time. So, and there were no officers involved in that at the time it was fleeing, other than the air unit. There were no other officers involved when that traffic collision occurred. There were no other traffic collisions as a result of the pursuit, and there are no other outstanding suspects that we know of from this incident. Everyone that we know of that was involved in this incident either was taken into custody here, is at the hospital, or was taken into custody at the termination of the pursuit.
Can you talk about your victims? How many? And I hear there might be one innocent victim that was shot.
So we have a total of 4 victims that were struck by gunfire. One of the victims is deceased behind me here in the parking lot. The other 3 were transported. None of the other 3 have life-threatening injuries. When they are released, we will continue our investigation with interviews of the people that were injured. There's a possibility that some of the people that were injured may be taken into custody during our subsequent investigation. That's going to be something that we determine as the investigation moves forward. But we believe that everyone that was involved in the dispute here is either in custody or at the hospital.
How many people were taken into custody in total?
Right now we have 3 people that are in custody, and we have 2 that are at the hospital. We're going to make a determination as to their involvement following their release from the hospital.
Was the driver of the car in pursuit involved in the incident here at this location, or was that person? Did that person come in later? Would that have been like a getaway driver?
A woman.
So we're
female.
trying to make a determination as to whether that is the case, but we believe that everyone that we have, and she is included, was involved in the initial incident. There is a possibility that one person may end up not being involved in the initial incident, but we believe everyone that we have was involved in the initial incident.
The 2 people in the car that fled were taken into custody.
That's correct.
How many weapons were recovered?
At this point, we've recovered 2 firearms, and as our investigation continues into the night, we'll see if we recover any other evidence. We have a very large crime scene here in the parking lot. We know that during the pursuit, we had to cover that area as well. When all those areas have been searched, we'll have a better idea of what items of evidence we have pertaining to this investigation.
The 2 weapons, one for your suspect, one weapon for your dead guy?
All I can say is 2 firearms have been recovered. I can't really get into who used which one or anything like that. That'll be part of the investigation, and we'll determine that moving forward. We do not have that information at this time.
But it does appear there was a shootout between the suspect and someone else here at this scene when it first initially happened. Somehow they fired at each other?
All I can say is at the initial scene, there's a possibility that we had parties firing at each other. We will not be able to determine that until we get into the investigation.
What can you tell us about the initial drug deal, the narcotics exchange? Can you tell us anything about that? What kind of drugs were involved? How many parties were involved? Anything about the circumstances of that exchange?
All I can say at this point is we've been able to determine preliminarily that the parties met here to conduct a narcotics transaction. Shortly after that narcotics transaction, shortly after it began, a dispute arose, according to the information that we have, and then that's when the shooting occurred. Shortly after that, when that suspect fled that was in the vehicle, that's when our air unit came overhead, and that's when they followed the suspect away from this location.
Do you believe there's any gang affiliation involved?
We believe there's a possibility that this involves gang members, yes.
What can you tell us about the deceased?
I don't have any information on the decedent. As far as the identification of the decedent, that will come from the LA County Coroner's Office. The LA County Coroner is en route here, and they will do the investigation regarding the identity of the decedent. We believe the decedent was involved in the incident here from its outset.
Do the suspects have any prior records?
I can't comment on any record that any of the suspects have. It's very preliminary right now. We'll release that information if it's publicly releasable as our investigation moves forward.
Chief, can you run through it again, just with the female suspect? At this point, do you believe she was here at the initial incident and then continued with the male suspect, or do you think she came into this after he ditched the first car?
So that's part of the investigation we're trying to kind of button down. We believe she was here for the initial incident, and then they either traveled together or they met up again later on in another part of West Hills. All of this was observed by the air unit when they came overhead. The only thing that is in question is whether she was involved in the initial incident.
We'll take 1 or 2 more questions.
Was one of the victims Trader Joe's employee?
I don't have any information that any employees were involved in this at all.
Any gunshots?
I don't have the exact number of gunshots either. I'm sorry.
Can you tell last question, Amber? Can you tell us male, female, age on the victim, on the deceased victim, and or the arrest?
Did you say on the decedent?
Yes.
It's a male.
It's a male.
The decedent is a male.
And then the arrest, do we know how old they are, the gender?
We'll have that information later on. If we book anyone, we'll release that information later on through our media relations.
Really quick, were both firearms recovered here, or were they in separate places?
All I can say is both firearms were recovered as a result of this investigation. I don't really want to put out where they were recovered from right now.